Now, I've done a video prior explaining and proving, in a sense, how Native Americans were given their first names and their last names. And I said, hey, where did they get the last names to give them? Before I kind of conjectured it off of a 1957 yearbook from a so-called boarding school. And I showed several pages in this yearbook of people who don't look like they've been mixed with any kind of white tea or black liquorship. They're just whatever they are, not real Indians. But how they had our last names like Bruner, and proved that the Bruner last name had been in here since well in the 1700s along the Seminole tribe. Well, I actually found even more proof. Now, as if when you Google it, you're gonna get the answers too, but y'all know how people be acting like. They be acting like they need the proof of the proof of the proof of the proof. And I come here with that. Each of these pages have certain types of sections. Let's get closer. Notice it says Indian name, English name, right? So you have these so-called native names, right, that are listed here. But when you go over here, you have people like the last name Payer. We're going to go through some of these. If I can read some of these. Baker, Smith, Smith, Thompson, Johnson, Ball, Baptiste. We're going to go through some more of these. I have to get a little closer. Mitchell, Jackson, Penn, Wackler, something like that. Some of these I can't really see. Lincoln, we got some Lincolns they gave away. Woodbury. Now, the pastor of my church, he was an assistant pastor for a while, then became the pastor of a church that I went to when I was young in Oklahoma City, was Woodbury. Everybody know about the Woodburys. In fact, there are several Woodbury pastors, I want to say, that are all within the same churches and several churches in Oklahoma. But somehow they gave that name to them. Now, where are they getting these names? But let's keep going. Walker, I know some Walkers. Young, YT, Young. Thornton, I know y'all know some Thorntons. Thompson, YT, whatever, Thipple. Again, that's their side of, and those names you can't pronounce, and they probably made them up. But the Stone, I'm not sure what that says. Shepherd, I know some Shepherds. St. Clair, they going all kind of exotic. Sherman, Stone, some more Mitchells. I have over in my line a couple Mitchells. Makes you wonder. And he goes back as far as 1854. His dad his last name wasn't Mitchell. That's another story. But still. Jones, John, Jones, page full of Jones and a Johnson. Now just think, I'm trying to figure out, are these families, and it looks like they usually are when you go down further and look at the ages. Like, that's a block of a family, and some of these people got the same, they just give them all the same name. Now, were they really related, or were they just tossing out names like candy? Chapman's, it looks like Coon, but I'm not sure. Campbell, okay? My ex's people were Campbells. Like Tisha Campbell from Martin. And to be honest, there's pages and pages, and actually 4 volumes of just these books, plus other books that show just other tribes specifically. You see, that's no different from 1957 yearbooks when you got people who look like they just got off the boat at Ellis Island, some of them, with the last names like Austin, Bailey, Bacon, Barnett, Baptiste, Billy, Bonnie, Brown, Buckley, Bully, Burgess, Carpenter, Childers, Cochran, like Johnny Cochran? Now come on now. When I did this video before, people tried to take it another way. Yes, Why don't you think, wouldn't you think the colonizer would have gave them names? Okay, well, y'all got to start thinking about this logically. Okay, so you mean to tell me these YTs came over from Europe, got them some slaves first that they brought with them from Africa, gave them all the surnames. Hey, y'all give my surname. And then they went over to them and also gave away the surnames. Now, why in the world would anybody do something like that? Now, we know that there's a planned thing that people do this. I'll show you. Now, what that guy was speaking about is that they were already doing this process. They would take the children, first of all. The children, why would you take the children and not the adults? Because the children don't know. It's like a blank slate. You tell them anything. You force them to speak English, change their surnames, and give them a whole historical new narrative. Now, that was talking about the people coming from here, like this lady named Friedman, okay, coming from Russia, and y'all thought just freedmen were black freedmen. You know, we need to go with that name. There's so many other freedmens here under this name, under the Naturalization Act. It's uncanny. But what's even more uncanny is they've been doing it forever. Now, they wanted to make us believe that they gave us our names. But that's not the case. We actually kept our names. In most cases, when you look up the people and who their slave owner was, the ones that have slaves, not everybody was a slave, they never really, hardly ever, take the surnames. I've looked up manumissions records, which are records of people letting people go for free. I've looked up just stories and stories and stories about, yeah, Mr. Oscar J. Dunn was a slave to Mr. A.G. Wilson, but not really a slave to A.G. Wilson. His dad was a slave. Mr. James Dunn was supposed to be a slave of Mr. James Dunn was first a person where he was bought by Mr. James Caldwell, okay? But his last name was Dunn, D-U-N-N. His name was James Dunn. He had a child, two children, Oscar and Jane Dunn. Oscar Dunn going on to be a lieutenant governor of Louisiana back in the day, and being unalive by them folks. But when you see here, his dad, his so-called slave owner at the time in New Orleans, was a guy named Caldwell. Now, I don't believe he got that name from Caldwell was called that over there. Because I can show you several documents where these people coming over from Germany, Russia, or some of the other places, unless it's maybe England or whatever. And I believe they took those people's names because their names were people like Breitenbach, or names like Anna Kupta, Mr. Prinko or something like that, or Zaretsky, okay, Znardaretsky, okay, coming from what, Russia? So you got people like that coming from Russia, Lithuania, but then you get people coming from the same Russia talk about, my name is Benjamin Love, or maybe I should try to talk like them. My name is Mary Johnston, or another Charles Love coming from Russia. All of a sudden now y'all got English names, right? What this proves is they've been doing what old boy just said, swapping names, taking over identities, giving new historical narratives. Same way they did to these $5 fakes, playing in my face. Where the hell did they get the names from? Okay? And why would they just give out names like Candy? Okay? They didn't look at them and be like, you look like you could be a Woodbury. Yep. Let's put that down here. No, there had to be a sinister reason why they went after the Woodbury family. There had to be a sinister reason why they went after the Love family. My family. Loves. Going back. Okay? Playing with me. Stop.